So we're now ready to start the extrusion process, and we're going to go layer by layer and just adding a extrude modifier to it. So we'll start with the hardscape, which is what we modeled first, and we will just type in ext for extrude and do -2 meters. So that means that that's the 2 meter height, which it is off sea level. We could make it slightly higher if we need to later. So same thing with these, we go ext, and these, since they are supposed to be platforms, we can do let's say -0.3. So they just look like thin floating platforms, and we can copy that same modifier to these, and we can paste instanced. Now, since this is going to be at the same height, and it's going to create some conflict, we can take the actual platform and we can move it up slightly, just so that we have a few centimeters of clearance between them. So let's move that up by 0.1. And we can do the same thing here, where we add an extrude modifier, and -0.5. So if we look from closer, we have this happening, and here we'll want to raise these as well slightly. So we can go and quickly select all those. We raise them by 0.1. Pressing W and then manually 0.1 down here. Now with this grassy layer, what we're going to do is we will make a copy by pressing Ctrl V. And on that copy, we will go and raise that up by 0.1 so that it is slightly higher. Then that we are going to extrude by 0.05, let's say. And that will just make a thin layer, which will be our grass. Then the original spline that we had below, we will add a sweep modifier to it. And we'll just create a bar. This will be the sort of pavement edge, or the edge of the planter, really. And we can just select 0.2 and 0. So I just make it the same, 0.2 there as well. So let's have a look how that looks. Just come in a little bit closer to that. And we see that we have a little pavement edge here, and we have the grass layer directly below it. Right, and then we want to do the same thing for these layers here. We'll start at the topmost. Now I'm going to go into elevation. I'm going to turn on the elevation plan, the elevation and the grid. And if I go into front view, then I can see that this line here is sitting over there. Now all of these heights that we set everything to is sitting at the top of our slabs. So we're going to extrude down. So ext enter, and the slab thickness, let's just make that 0.3. And it needs to be extruded downwards, so we're going to add a minus to that. Right, and the same thing, we can then copy and paste instance that modifier. Now the big parking layer that we've selected here, if we go in the front view, which is the one sitting over there, we need to copy it up twice. So we can press spacebar, which will lock that in, press S to get the snap on, and we can just, with holding down shift, we can move that up and instance it up twice. That will give us these two layers. So what we've done now is we've repeated it 3 times, and we have this top layer here. This spline down here is going to be the glass line to our retail at the bottom 2 levels. So what we want to do is we want to extrude that up by 12 meters, or 10 meters, excuse me, from 2 meters to 12. So we know that we have to go ext. We will extrude that up by 10 meters, and since we know that there's a mezzanine level in between, we will add a second segment so we can get that line. So what we're left with now is a set of geometry where we have the slab edges and we have these podium layers here, and then we have the terrain geometry for the hardscape and all of these parts that are going to be floating above. So what we're going to do now, just to finish off, is we're going to add the balustrade around. So we can select each one of these 3 layers, press Ctrl V, make a copy, and then we can select that layer again, and instead of extrude we're going to add a sweep modifier, and that sweep modifier we can then add a width of 0.2 and a length of 1 meter, and we can just realign it so that it's basically doing this. So we're using exactly the same geometry, we're just making a copy and extruding it upwards. So we can take that same sweep modifier, we can copy it, and we can take this one here, delete the extrude, and paste instance. So what we have now instantly are the balustrades that are going to be sweeping around the podium levels. And that is it for this short video. We've basically got the geometry for our bottom levels here that we can start our work on, and we can immediately start with the rough modeling for the towers in the next video. And what we've completed up till now will be the base that we can then add all of the details to, which we'll get to in future videos as soon as we finish building the main tower blocks.